There are guys who eat, breathe, and sleep at the limit of adhesion. For these hardcore dudes, no normal daily driver will do, not even a regular sports car. Pfft, a BMW M4 would be way too soft. Nah, these guys need the M4 GTS, $135,000, only 300 of them coming to the US. This is the perfect weapon for those extreme guys to go and pick up their dry cleaning.
You've got to be kidding me!
In order to make a super extreme GTS out of the regular M4, BMW made a ton of changes to it, most of which are functional. But before I start to list those off, let me say one thing. We give BMW a hard time these days about a lot of stuff, but one thing they nailed is the styling. That is a stunningly beautiful car. Beauty is a very personal thing, but I find the combination of matte gray and orange particularly striking. And those wheels! They're 19s at the front, 20s in the back, and they're wide enough to completely fill the wheel wells. This is a car with perfect proportions and a perfect stance. The GTS also includes a vented carbon fiber hood, an extendable front splitter that's low enough to decapitate ants, and that J.C. Whitney-looking tacked-on rear spoiler that wouldn't look hotter if it was on fire. The GTS also has new taillights, not normally a big deal, but these are lit with OLEDs, and BMW used them in a three-dimensional way to show off just how thin those membranes are. You could stare at these lights for hours. Inside, an acid orange half roll cage replaces the rear seats, M-colored door pulls replace the regular handles, and the door cards themselves, they're made from recycled carbon scraps, with no speakers in them, because lightweight. For that reason too, there's no center console storage bin, and the seats, they're manually adjustable.
The easiest way to avoid scraping that front splitter is to back up. Can't see a thing with that spoiler, but it's all about being extreme. Hello, plants? So easy to live with cars like this. No problem. Got this. Go slowly, go slowly. Luckily, that piece is cheap. All right. Quiet, too. If you don't want to scrape the front splitter on everything, well, you probably shouldn't have this car, but you can adjust the ride height because it's got coilovers with adjustable spring perches. Of course, that means you have to jack the car up, move the spring perch, put it back down, measure it again, and then probably realign it. But you know, hey, extreme. Ditto with the ride quality. You can make this thing ride stiffer or slightly less stiff if you want, but it's not like some wimpy button. It's actual three-way adjustable dampers. They have 6 settings for low-speed compression, 14 for high-speed compression, and 16 more for rebound. So what's that, like 17.6 million combinations? I mean, now you know why BMW does those Comfort Sport, Sport Plus settings on lesser cars. Not here. No, no, no. You want all the adjustability. You're a hardcore dude. What's her damage? Rude. One of the biggest complaints we've all had about this generation of 3 and 4 Series is the steering. And for the GTS, M has decided to get rid of the elastic center section in the steering column. It takes out all the play, which means for the very first time since this chassis 3 Series came out, the GTS actually has steering feel. part of that feel is due no doubt to the steering wheel, which is Alcantara and transmits all of those beautiful little vibrations to your fingertips. Another part are the rims. The competition pack M4 uses 20-inch rims front and rear, but the GTS uses 19s up front, and smaller rims means bigger sidewalls, and bigger sidewalls like to transmit steering feel better. Driving this car around on extreme city roads, you realize this is what the M4 probably should have been like, right? This is special, this is different. All kinds of stuff rattling in this car. In the rearview mirror, I have a view of the roll cage and the spoiler, which means I really can't see much at all. It rides really stiffly, it's loud, there's no sound deadening in here. It scrapes on everything. This is a real experience. This is what we were looking for when the M4 came out. We were promised by some BMW insiders when the GTS was first shown that it would be available with a stick shift, and that didn't happen. Then again, this is an uncompromised track machine, and you'll get the fastest lap times with an automatic. So it has the same 7-speed dual clutch automatic from the M4. Somewhere along the way, M seems to have forgotten that its cars started out as homologation cars, race cars that you could drive for the street. And they started making luxury cars that happen to be faster than the regular versions of the cars. This thing feels like what an M car should. It's special, it's different. It's not the kind of car your grandmother would buy by mistake because she thinks it's cute. It beats you up. I'm sitting in a hard seat, getting rattled around by the ride. M could possibly be back. Also, the exhaust sounds like it's farting through a paper towel roll. Excuse me. With all of those things that make this car special to drive, it's still totally easy to live with every day. That backseatless backseat, perfect place for you to stash your groceries. And it even has this convenient place for you to put your dry cleaning. Another feature that makes the M4 super easy to live with on a daily basis is that it's got this flashing light that flashes anytime the engine's making more than enough power to outrun a Corolla. Look at that, flash, flash, flash. That's as if to say, hey dude, you may want to slow it down. You're gonna get a speeding ticket. Thanks, buddy. Wait a second, that's just the traction control light. BMW was already making 142 horsepower per liter out of this overstressed 3-liter straight six. This thing makes 165 horsepower per liter on crap US fuel. How on earth did they do that? Water injection.
You can't, of course, burn water to make power. Instead, using an old hot rodder trick we haven't seen in a production car in more than 50 years, the GTS injects distilled water into the intake.
When water evaporates, it creates a cooling effect, which is why you sweat to keep cool and why this stupid thing actually works.
The evaporating water cools the air coming into the M4's engine by about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Cooler air is denser, which means it contains more oxygen and therefore can burn more fuel, but it also reduces the chance of detonation, an even bigger problem in turbocharged engines since turbos heat the intake air. The cooling effect allows the GTS's turbos to run at up to 22 psi of boost instead of the regular M4's 17.
More boost means more power, and the GTS makes 49 more horsepower than the competition pack M4. Well, so long as there's, water in the tank. You don't notice the water injection at all from behind the wheel. You just notice that this engine's power delivery is very different from that of the regular M4. Whereas that engine has a big, broad plateau of torque, this thing wakes up at 5,000 and then pulls like a raped ape. This engine also sounds very different than it does in the regular M4. It doesn't have active sound management because, of course, it doesn't have any speakers. Speakers in the front, so you don't hear a lot of engine noise. And the exhaust, well, it's pretty quiet. I mean, you could just drive through the neighborhood at red line. Barely even hear it. Totes quiet. these launch controls to activate is maddening. By the time you get them to work, you've already lost the race. Oh, but BMW dual clutches do one thing that I love. If you floor it, it goes. If you floor it all the way through the kickdown switch, it revs up, dumps the clutch, and does a burnout. That's how you do a launch. Two corners in, I gotta say, all of that specialness that I felt on the street doesn't really translate to the track. This feels very much like an M4, which means numb. I mean, it's like driving this car with driving shoes on your hands. You feel nothing. I mean, come on, I'm not even close to the limit, and that stability light is just blink, 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 blink. Come, leave me alone.
This stability control must not know it's in a GTS with sticky tires and stiff shocks because it's constantly interfering when it doesn't need to.
I don't want to have to do this on the first lap, but I have to turn stability completely off because obviously M dynamic mode stands for paranoid grandmother. All right. So it was cutting power that whole time. Norris chassis balance. This thing's quick. It's quick again! It's M4 fast! Back. Drift machine! I am out of water, it says. This is what the M4 should have been like from the get-go. And now, without the electronics nagging me the entire time, I notice what the chassis is doing, which is being ridiculous. It's like a race car. The throttle response is instant. Boom, boom. Brake bite. Absurd. Wow. And this car just turns in with no roll at all.
So we know it's more fun than a standard M4, but to find out if it's any faster, we handed the keys over to Randy Popst for a lap around Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. The standard M4 is on the left, the GTS on the right. So the GTS is 2 seconds faster around Laguna than a regular M4, making it about as fast as a Chevy Camaro with a 1LE handling package that costs a third as much. Oh, and a $75,000 Mustang Shelby GT350R is 1.6 embarrassing seconds faster than the GTS. Driving this BMW is like sparring with a 75-year-old former pro athlete. They've still got some of the moves, you can see glimmers of the grace and strength they once possessed, but they just can't keep up with the kids anymore. Lap times aside, driving the GTS on-road or on track is a special experience, and it's a glimmer of hope that there's life over at M. Someone was willing to make an M car that's actually an M car. That means it's slightly compromised, slightly tough to live with, but very clearly a different kind of BMW. And that's all we've wanted all along from the M4.